This is our Genisys Touch. This is our high-end scan tool, our flagship model for this particular application. And keep this in mind, this tool was designed as a J2534 scan tool, like the OEMs are going to now. So we have a VCI. This is our VCI that allows a communication Bluetooth to our handset here. This also can be used with USB if you want to. But again, this is also a reflash device, so you can reflash cars with this. It cannot run the OEM software, but it can reflash cars. So this is the tool you're going to use. Again, it's Bluetooth to the handset. I'll put this back in the car right now because I don't need it. The other cable I've got on the top is VGA output, so you can teach with this tool and show multiple technicians how the tool works at its screen. And the big thing I wanted to do is talk to you about this is, again, a J2534-scan tool. OTC was the first person in the market to come out with this type of tool. Now, if we go up and look at it, we have, this is our diagnostic hub. And if we go up and look at maintenance tests up here, and the first thing when you click on maintenance tests, it will tell you where the maintenance tests are located at. So if I wanted to do TPMS registration, it would tell me which place I would have to go to do the registration of the tool, which is kind of neat. It tells you exactly where you need to do for your maintenance issues. And if I'm looking at the tool, if I want to go back to my engine, I'm going to my diagnostic hub. If I go ahead and read codes, if we hit read codes on this one, it will do similar to what we've done before with the Encore. They're very similar the way they work. The big thing about it is it will pull all the codes. So if there's a history code, there is a current code or a malfunction indicator lamp code, they will all be brought up at the same time. Keep this in mind, and most of the scan tools you're going to go out and only time you're going to get that if you do an all DTC scan. So that's a time saver for you for both of the tools, the Encore and this one. So I have the codes up there, and if I wanted to, I could go out on the internet or I can get information. If I just click on one of these up here, it automatically takes me out, and the first thing that comes up on the screen, it gives me code assist. It tells me the most common fix for that code. If I want to go down to get a description, I can go down to get a description of how this sensor works and what it does. If I want to go to the PCM pin, it automatically takes me out to the PCM pin for that particular vehicle. And the neat thing about it is if you click on it, it's going to tell you what pin and what connector it's located at. A lot of times when you're diagnosing a car, you've got to go to a specific pin to do the repair work on it. So this one accesses it to you, tell the color, the pin number, and what connector it's located in. Saves you time when you're diagnosing the car. The other thing we've got is code criteria here. This is in both of our tools. In fact, it's in all of our tools right now where you have code criteria. The neat thing about code criteria, you use that to diagnose a car, and it also tells you the criteria when the code's set. That's neat information to use, so you can go back, use this information, and duplicate it under the same conditions to verify your repair. Nice information, makes it really easy to use the tool. So I just wanted to show you that. If we have the ability to go back out, we have the ability to do an all-system DTC scan, which means we can go out and pull all the codes on all the computers on the vehicle. And if I did that, you notice we'd have some U codes. I won't go ahead and do that on this particular model. I think we've done that before. And if I hit done, I'm out on the codes. The next thing we've got is data stream. Data stream, we've all seen that before, but the data stream is a little bit unique on this one. If you look at it, there's a vertical list. So if I want to do engine data, I click on that one of my favorite to use. It will automatically come up here in a second. It will bring all the engine data up. It automatically will graph the upper left-hand side. So I'm going to take out and click this one, and I'm just going to put it in data. Now everything's there. If I want to sort this, I just come up over the sort button, and I sort it. If I want to sort it by alphabet, everything will be in alphabetical order. Again, just like on the Encore, if I wanted to, and I want to do short-term fuel trim, I click on this one, and I hit select. Now we only have one PID on the screen, which means our update rate's going to be a lot faster. For your checking out just one or two sensors, this is the greatest time to do this. Now I'm going to click on the little down arrow here, and at this point you'll see I have ability to do it in data, I have ability to do it in a bar graph, I have ability to do it in a graph, so we're going to hit graph. Now at this point I would be graphing the information and real quickly getting access. I can do 2 or 3 on the screen if I want to, and it makes it a lot easier to use. Again, the update speed is almost twice as fast on some cars. It depends on the application of the car. Right now we're not running, but it gives you an idea of what we can do. Now the other thing is if I just hit select again, everything's back up. So we also have the ability to, again, I want to make sure I show you this down here. The OTC tools, the Genisys, the Encore, and the Touch are always in record mode. If you'll see down at the bottom, it is recording. So you actually can get down at the bottom and look at, and you can hit freeze. And when you hit freeze, it allows you to go back a screen at a time or go forward a screen at a time. If I hit resume, it goes back and does live data. The other neat little thing about it is if I hit record, I can record the data. Again, this tool's always in record mode. All of the OTC tools that I know of are in this price range or above it. So we're looking Genisys, Encore, and Touch are always in record mode. Now if I hit stop, if you look at the top up here, you'll see a button. Those are the recordings stored in the tool. So if I clicked on that one, it would give me a recording with a timestamp. That's why I tell everybody when you have the Genisys, make sure you have the proper time in the tool and the date, so you know if you're going to go back and do recording, you go back to it. So if I just hit 343, which is one we just did, it automatically will bring the screen up and it will replay it back for you. Notice it's going across the line, it's replaying my image. So if I had a live capture, I would see my data changing. I can freeze it. I can dial in on just the items I want to. Makes it a little bit easier to use the tool. It's a really neat graphing feature. I'm going to hit done. Will take me right back here. If I hit cancel, it takes me right out to data stream. Now there's another little feature here that I would like to show real quick that I like about the tool. At the very bottom you see where it says engine. And if I went over to, let's say I wanted to go to the transmission, it goes right to data stream. So whatever section I was in on the tool, if I'm in codes, it will go right into codes. If I'm in data stream, it'll go right into data stream, no matter what section I'm going to. So if I pick the section I'm in, I've got data stream, it will do it in the next module. So I'm going to hit on the upgoing arrow, go to the engine, wait a few seconds. It's going to ask me about the air pump one more time, but it should take me right back into the section I was at, and there we are. So I'm back into the section on data stream. That's how you move around the tool real quickly if you want to do it. So if you were doing an all-system DTC scan and you want to look at multiple modules that have codes, you can do this real quickly by just highlighting and selecting each one of those modules. How do you know what module you're in? It's at the very bottom of the screen. It says the vehicle and it says engine. So we know what version or what module we're in at the time. It helps you out a lot. Now, to get out of here, we're just going to hit done. And the next thing I'm going to look at is diagnostic information. There's a lot of information available in this tool. Keep in mind, Genisys has this information on a lot of these different applications in here, like Repair Track and others. But the thing about it is the Touch and the Encore went one step above those. So if we look at a video library, we have a video library up here. And if we come up here and look at it, these are videos of how to use the tool and how to set it up. And to exit, you just hit the exit at the top, and you're back out to your diagnostic information. We have Repair Track, which we've had in Genisys, we have in the Encore, and we have in the Touch. This will give you information of different problems with vehicles. So if I look at lighting, it will give me information on this particular vehicle with a lighting issue. These are called what we call aftermarket TSVs. Aftermarket TSVs are coming from Identifix. These are common problems on cars that need to be identified. It makes it a lot easier. I don't have to leave the fender to fix the car because it's here. So it makes it a lot easier for all the technicians to use. I'm going to hit close. We have a code assist library. Code assist library is in all three of our tools. If you come up there, if I have a P code, and I'm going to do a P0 code, so I'm going to do a P0 code here. And it has a list of these, and if I scroll down here, I'm a P01 code. If I'm looking at those, it will actually come down and give me information on a particular car. So I'm just going to pick one that you're going to see a lot, which would be a 171 code. And the most common fix for this particular vehicle would be replace the mass airflow sensor, and the second most common fix would be replacement gasoline. Some of the areas have gasoline, it's not the greatest in the world. If I want to know the code criteria, I just click on that and give me the code criteria. Makes it a little bit easier for you to understand what's going on with the code. Again, if I want to look at the PCM pin, like we've talked before, it's there. And we have a lot of information you can use to fix the car. But again, that is in code library. The newest thing we've got in this tool is called System Assist. System assist. I'm going to ask a lot of technicians work on a car, and I have to ask you guys, you ever work on a car and there's no light on, you got a problem? This one actually goes through it. So the one I like using a lot is, let's see if I get this down, and it says, well, we'll just do the transmission, harsh or engaged. Harsh engagement. If I look at it, it says repaired automatic transmission shift actuating pin on this particular car. On some cars, it might tell you need to replace the mass airflow sensor, or you might need to clean it. So it gives you information based on the symptom. So they've deep mined the Identifix's database and came out with just on the symptom, so you can actually fix a car a lot easier. We hit close off of that one. We have direct hit, that's going out the internet and be able to use that as we saw on the Encore. You have a TSB reference like we've used before. TSBs are there. You won't get the full TSB, but you will get the information for them. If I go to oil light reset procedures, as I said, technicians need that. Symptoms. I can put a symptom in the car, and if I put a symptom in the car, let's say I've got a hard start symptom, or whatever I picked that time, and it automatically will tell me what the problem is or the things I should check. A lot of technicians work on a car for a few days at a time sometimes and forget to check the basics or forget what they've checked. This one gives you a list of what should be checked on that car to fix that car. Hit close on that one. TuneUp Specs. This is in Genisys, this is in Encore, this is in Touch. The neat thing about this, I always ask the technician, how long does it take you to find the injector resistance? Injector resistance 11 to 14 ohms on this particular car. I want to know battery. The neat thing about a battery, it will give me the group number plus the minimum co-cranking amps for that battery. Now the other thing it will do, if there's two batteries available, like some of the police cars have two batteries, it will give you both of those batteries that you can look at and give you the numbers on it. If I want to know fuel pressure, how long would it take you to find fuel pressure in your different systems? So I'm going to go fuel pressure here, and it gives you the fuel pressure. Sometimes it'll give you a fuel pressure key on engine running, and with the deadhead pressure. Nice little setup what we got. Idle speed, and if I have compression, and the last one down here is firing order. And again, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep this in mind. Some of the new General Motors V8s have different firing orders. This is all built into the tool. Built in all of it. PCM pin, we've already showed you that. Drive cycle. How many of you know how to do every drive cycle known to man? If you do, you should be up here. The big thing about it is if we're doing drive cycle, I'm doing misfire monitor. It will tell me how to run my monitor. And a lot of times if you've got a code set or modules failed, you want to know how to run the drive cycle monitor afterwards. This is all built into the tool. We hit close. The next thing we've got is fuse box location. You saw me talk about that in Genisys. That was component location. Fuse box location up here will tell me where the fuse boxes are. How many of you worked on a car and you can't find some of the fuse panels? So that's there. If we go to ECU location, we have DLC location. And we also have TPMS quick reference, how to get into that. So that's all built into the tool. And it actually will work you through descriptions, how to use TPMS, guys, and how to do the procedures. All in the tool so you look at. Remember, those TPMS books are about that thick. So we're putting it in here to make it easier for you. The other thing, we have the Code Assist library came up twice on this particular tool, and that's fine. If I hit done on there, we also have our special tests. Just like we have on our other tools, I can do my special tests. They're listed up here, so if I wanted to run an evap test, notice we have an evap test, and it says evap on it. If you guys will look at it, it has evap solenoid, evap purge and seal, and evap vent control. Now, while we're here, a lot of guys always ask me about this. If I go to service bay test, evap service bay test, that's a General Motors test that runs the evap monitor, so you can actually turn that light off when the customer leaves, all into the tool so you have access to it. So we hit done, and all of a sudden we have a 2-channel scope. And when we go to 2-channel scope, depending on their application, you're going to have a database, probably up to a certain model years, we'll have a database of things. If I want to do an ignition scope, I just click on this, it automatically sets me up for an ignition scope. I don't have a scope hooked up to the vehicle right now, so it's not there. Here's the neat thing about our scope is, our scope also has a CD that comes with it. So you can load the CD on a separate PC, and you can be watching the scope over here while watching the scan tool over there. That makes it a lot easier, and it also gives you 2 diagnostic tools at one time. The scope's a 40 megasamples per second scope, does a really good job. If I want to look at probe, I can change my probe. I got a coil and plug probe I can use. I'm going to hit close. Have to hit this one first. And I also have lab scope. I can set this thing up for a lab scope. I can set it up for a digital multimeter. For you guys checking out your digital multimeter readings, I can have those setting up on the screen. I can change the settings up to bar graph. I can put it in a dial. Whatever I want to do, I can do that. I'm going to hit close. It also has system test. Now, system test is different things. So I have a no start down at the bottom. It would automatically work me through the procedure on there. If I want to do, let's say, fuel control, it automatically would set me up for the current limiter injector, non-current limiter injector, and if you notice, the O2 sensor. So if I set this thing up for an O2 sensor, then we have a functional test. We'll set the screen up for you, and at the very bottom, it will tell you how to hook the leads up. So in other words, it's power of the tool helping you set the scope up properly the first time. A lot of you guys are new to scope, so this actually helps. If we hit close, takes me back here. If I hit done, I'm back out to the main hub. Now, I want to make sure you understand this is our flagship in this product range. It is a Windows 7 based tool. It is Windows that we've got, so we have good access. We also have a browser so we can go out on the internet and access other information. Now, we're going to bring Doc up. We're going to do a recap and go over some diagnostic packages that might be available to you.
You know, Jim, that was an awful lot of information.
I agree with that one.
I think we probably ought to do a little bit of a recap just to make sure everybody understood what we were trying to tell them.
Yeah, we went quickly, so we need to recap it so everybody can understand what we're trying to get across.
Okay, so let's do that. So, you know, when we look at the big picture here, the tools, information, system, and processes that are available today in diagnosis repair to complete a job is probably the most timely, accurate, and profitable way to do anything. What do you think?
Yeah, we have to have information. That's one of the components we have to have, plus the scan tools, and we're trying to keep you at the fender as much as you can to fix the car quickly. That's what we've got to do, because that's time's money.
You know, we talked at the beginning, Jim, about the old days, the old processes of buying scan tools. And one of the things was, you know, people looked at the price first.
Right.
Then they looked at the relationship with a tool guy that they bought the tools from.
Correct, yes.
And then the last, of course, was the overall vehicle coverage. Can't do that today.
No, we can't do that today because a lot of times we have to go into more intensive coverage on the cars, and they're not always there with the aftermarket scan tools.
Right. Well, one of the big things, the way I feel about it, is productivity. You know, we have to ask, what's a technician's time worth? You know, when we look at a technician being able to work on the car, from scan, test, fix, and verify with the tools available today, these are some big decisions.
Well, the big thing about it is we noticed we had the ability to look at how the code sets. We look at the ability to run the monitors for it. So we can actually sit down, and if there's a problem, a typical problem for a vehicle, we can actually access that information. So quickly we can put our own diagnostic plan together and get this car, as it said, scan it, test it, fix it, and verify it's done. If you verify it, you know it's not coming back, and that's going to always increase your profitability in your shop.
Well, you know, one thing as a trainer, Jim, I've always asked my technicians, my guys that I train, what does a comeback cost us? Is it just time? Is it time and money? You know, it's big.
It's big. The biggest thing about it is on a comeback, your customer is going to tell somebody else they had a problem. So you're going to lose that customer and maybe several more.
That's true.
So that's a real big important fact. You want to make sure that you're not getting comebacks because they're always going to cost you, it says credibility, you're going to lose customers. Over a period of time, those customers are going to talk to others and you're going to lose more.
So what we need today is a new purchase strategy. You know, we need to know what we want the tool to do for us. Do we need codes? Do we need codes for multiple modules? Do we need that bi-directional testing that you and I were showing with this equipment? Do we need to get into body control, ABS?
There's a whole bunch of things you can get into. A lot of times, if you're a certain shop, you do ABS systems, that might be a priority on your particular scan tool choice. Or if you're doing body control or electrical testing, you might want to have a certain tool, and you might want to have a lab scope on the top of that. You got to have the tools to do the job.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. You know, one of the other things we talked about briefly was initializing coding. I don't know that a lot of technicians grasp that term when I said it. You know, when we talk about initializing coding, what we're talking about is a factory scan tool function. You know, next would be the relearn. Relearning things like throttle body.
Well, if you think about initialization, you put a new component on, it's just like you put that new component on again, and the computer has to know it's there and has to use it. If it's not initialized, the computer recognizes it is there, it won't work. Coding on some cars is a whole different access. You have to be able to put a code in the car so it accepts that component.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of things you need to do.
You know, one of the last things that we talked about was reprogramming. You know, we didn't go into a lot of detail of reprogramming, but you and I both know the information today tells us that from 2005 and newer,
Right.
60% of cars are repaired by reprogramming with no parts involved.
Agreed. I was over at a Chrysler Training Center and we were doing something on one of the cars. Every 15 to 20 minutes, we have a reflash for that. We have a reinitialization for that. And if I didn't know that, I would not be able to fix that car. Again, there's some cars, I'm going to put a new component on it. I'm going to have to reflash that computer just to allow that computer to recognize the new component as different in coding and be able to access the information it needs to be able to work on the network on the car.
Yep, absolutely. So, you know, one of the last things that I want to clarify with everybody that's viewing us today is what about the tool support? You know, one of the biggest things about the equipment we're showing today, it is built in the United States in Owatonna, Minnesota. That's not out anywhere outside the United States. That to me is huge.
Some of our tools are made in California.
That's true.
That's true.
But they are all built here in the United States.
In the United States. The other thing about it is you have to worry about your technical support line that's helping you out. You have to be able to think about it. If you have a salesman you can work with, you have to have your rep that you're working with, and what is the warranty on the tool? That's a real big important factor. What is the warranty? What does it cover? The last question you might have to ask is, where is your tool going to be repaired? Am I going to have to send it to some depot somewhere and worry about it, get it back? We have a thing called repair track. So when you send the tool in, you actually call them in, send the tool in, and when you send the tool in, you have a number that you can actually see and talk to them and see if the tool got there, if it's repaired, and they will be able to contact you and tell you what the problem was so they can have the tool back to you as quickly as possible.
Well, one of the most important things I think we learned today is there is no one tool to do it all.
Nope. You have to have multiple tools to do the job right now.
Yep. So let's talk for a minute about multiple tool packages. So let's take a look. If we were looking at the Genisys Touch, which Jim just went through all this detail of what this tool can do, that is an absolute great and awesome tool. And then we add to that the power of the Mastertech VCI. Look at what it brings to the table. 100% factory OEM coverage for GM, Saab, BMW, Land Rover, and Toyota, as well as all those manufacturers that were validated J2534.
So you have access, right now you have both tools. We have the ability to do reflash with both of them, but we can have OEM software on the Bosch tool, which puts you one step above what you normally would use.
So the price on that package would be very minimal of having 5 different tools to do the same thing.
Correct.
So great package. Well, let's talk for a minute about OEM, the owning a factory tool. These are some of the most popular factory tools in the industry today. The Ford, the Honda, the BMW, the Chrysler, the GM. Let's take a second and look at when would I, as a shop owner, want to own a factory tool. If I evaluated that 40% of the vehicles that I'm working on as the primary vehicles that I see, then I would probably want to own that factory tool. So let's say it's Ford. So I have 40% Ford vehicles as my main income.
Like
my
a shop.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I may consider buying the Ford VCM2, which is about $1,500, and then around $700 to run that tool yearly.
Right.
So my first expense would be just over $2,200. I own the tool, and it costs me $700 a year from then on. Right. And I own the factory tool, can do everything the dealer can do.
Correct.
That's fabulous. That's just something we don't normally think about. But what do we do about the other 60%?
Well, you've got up here a generic code reader, and we know the limitations of a code reader. You need a minimum of an inexpensive scan tool, but at that same point, you could buy your touch. If you had a Genisys already, you could use it, or you could use an Encore. So you can mix and match what you need to cut the coverage you need for the particular vehicles.
You know, I think you're 100% right, Jim. You know, that going forward into the 21st century, there's just no way that one tool can do it all.
No.
We need to look at overall packages, look at the cost, but the main thing that we focused on was what can the tool do for me?
Right.
Not the cost of the tool, but what can the tool do for me?
The big point is, what can the tool do for me on the vehicles I work on?
Correct.
You've got to get that in your head, and you've got to be able to do your purchases on that point.
I think that's great. So let's do a quick little review. What's the correct scan tool for you? Well, we know there's not one tool. We need to have a purchase strategy that we've never had before. We've got to know the business, know the cars that we're going to work on. You know, we have choices in scan tools. We have an entry level, professional, or an actual OE level scan tool.
Right.
You know, do we want those bi-directionals? Do we need to stop and think about initialization or coding of an OEM level scan tool?
Right. The other thing is, a lot of guys are afraid to go into the J2534 because they're a little bit afraid of it, but it's getting to the point right now that you're going to have to make that move sometime, and the sometime is now. Yep.
You know, and along with that, Jim, I'm going to say what shop owners and technicians need to do more than ever is research.
Research. You might want to talk to other shops. You're going to go on IATN. You might want to look at, sometimes they have scan tool shootouts. You might want to look at what the factory guys are using, and they might do some recommendations for you. You've really got to do some research to buy the proper tool for the productivity you need for your shop.
I agree with that 100%, and then worry about the cost of it at the end.
Yes. The other thing about it is, you don't have to buy this all at one time.
No.
You buy this in pieces and add them in. So get you a good aftermarket scan tool and then add the pieces that you need. I still say you need an inexpensive scan tool. Everybody needs one, and you need to look at the information you have on that. That's going to be my service writer tool or my triage tool where the car comes in real quickly. I have to have an aftermarket scan tool, then I have to look at the cars I need OEM information. I might go into the Mastertech VCI, VCM2 for Ford. If you've got a fleet of police cars you might be working on, you need to have the tools for what you're working on.
Absolutely. Well, Jim, I can't thank you enough for all your information.
Thank you for helping me, and I helping you. Then we'll go from here.
All right.
All right, thank you guys.